Welcome to Storyteller, the Storyteller. I'm Shannon Cason. Storyteller, the Storyteller is creative conversations with storytellers. Storytellers, people who go on stage and share intimate details about their life. I'm one of them people who do that strange thing like with all the kind of different shows, including my own show. I do a show called Shannon Cason's Homemade. It's a podcast where I tell stories about my life. Check for that on anywhere you get podcasts and also on this YouTube channel. Today, I'm talking to a storyteller who I admire very much. And I admire him so much because it's the first person I ever heard really tell a story. Now, I had heard stories before, but I went to one of their shows and I thought it was a show where everybody was going to stand with a piece of paper and we were going to read our stories. But this person actually just told a story just right out of the top of their head, just kind of talking to the audience. And that was the first time I kind of saw that done in that way when it wasn't a comedian or something like that. So I'm happy to bring them to the stage because it was the person that got me into storytelling. Today I'm talking to Dana Norris. Dana Norris. I'm gonna bring her up, but we're gonna have a good conversation because I've known Dana since I've been telling stories. So I'm gonna bring her up right now. Hey Dana. Can
Oh,
you hear me? Yeah.
yes.
You got
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? I'm excited to be here.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How's your I'll say this too. I appreciate you. Yesterday, my Lions were in the and I was thinking the game was gonna be over by the time we would do our thing, and you pushed it out an hour for me.
You
It
don't
all
like,
changed.
here's the thing. Men at the end of January, you got to give them space and grace. Football is tough. It's hard for everyone.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a playoff game. This decides who goes to the Super Bowl.
Now
Let's just
Cleveland was doing something too, but they got knocked out in the first in the wild card series. But the
Mhm.
thing was, Cleveland had a long time to get there too. So I was kind of rooting for Cleveland as well. But y'all did. But the Lions made it that far. And I remember
They
when we
did.
talked on the phone. I don't want to make this all about football, but when we
No, it's
talked,
fine.
I was like, I think the Lions won this, so we just go ahead and do it. And then in the time frame that I was saying, I was like, everything's changed. I got to see this game.
You're
and,
like it's
and I
all falling
appreciate
apart.
you for making it happen for me.
You know what? You got to be flexible.
I appreciate
I, you know, I got 3 kids. It's just you got to be flexible, man.
I want to get into that too. Dana, this is what
Yeah.
when I think of you, this is what I think of. I think of storyteller because you're the first person I actually saw just tell a story. I think you talked about a
Mm.
jazz club or something back when you were in
Mhm.
Chicago at Story
Mhm.
Club. And I also think of you as an author. I got your book. I meant to grab it too. The Storytelling Code.
Oh,
I got your
yes.
book. So you're an author as well. And I know you as a host. You've been hosting since I've
Mhm.
even known what storytelling shows were. You were hosting a show called Story Club, and it was in Cleveland, I mean in Chicago, then it was in all
Mhm.
these other cities as well. And I've always known you as
Mhm.
just as a great host in building community and everything around storytelling and around, creativity and those things. Now those are the things that I know. And see, I
Mhm.
know that, Dana. Now you talk about 3 kids and all these other
I know that's a whole.
all these other parts of life. What are some of the things that I'm missing that I'm probably leaving out? Take me a little deeper.
Oh, I have a master's in religious studies because why not? I have 3 kids. I have, a day job like everyone that, does this work has to.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
sometimes I'm always amused when people come up and assume story club's my livelihood. And I was like, if I could make my bills by performing once a month, yeah, I don't see the math on that. I don't know how you see it either. But yeah, so I have a quote unquote normal job, normal life with kids and stuff, but just keeping this part of it going, because when we met, I didn't have any of it. I didn't have a husband, I didn't have kids. I was just out in Chicago trying to do the thing that I like, create the show that I wish had existed when I was looking for it.
That's
And a lot of
it.
shows
Yeah.
like it popped up after I made the show, but at the time there were stand-up shows and there were poetry slams, but there wasn't any place, like you said, to stand there and just tell a story. And so I made the show. And I was thinking about this today, and I have to say, I appreciate you, because you were one of the first people to come to the show who actually had talent. And that was very exciting for me as a host and producer to see someone who I didn't know walk in and tell a story. And I'll be like, wow, we're actually pulling in people that know how to write. That's great. And I remember reaching out to you afterwards, like, that was good. And you're like, that was my first time doing it. I was like, well, you should keep going.
That was exactly what it was. It was at a coffee shop called Uncommon Ground, which was a wonderful coffee shop too, to serve food, and they had that back room that was like a dark lit back room where you can just go back there, and I would walk back there and it'd be people telling stories and those things. But I remember that I remember the first story I told too. I think it was my father's camera, and I would tell that story. I still tell that story to this day. But I remember you saying, that was good. I like to have you as a featured. And that positive reinforcement meant so much to me. I went home, my Cindy, my ex-wife now, but we still great friends. But I told Cindy, I was like, she liked my story. She wanted me to come back.
Because let me tell you, it was a lot of weirdos, and that's fine. But like, you're doing an open mic and you're starting it from the ground up, and no one really knows what storytelling is, and people were just showing up reading sections of their unpublished novel, which is not what I wanted. But I was just like, thank you for being here. I wanted it to be true stories and nonfiction, and just when we started getting people that actually were interested in the same thing and were actually had like an artistic point of view and actually worked on it ahead of time and didn't just show up and just do a raw 8 minutes off the dome, it was really refreshing for me to be like, oh, maybe this concept has legs, because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I now consider myself to be I'm very comfortable hosting. I'm very comfortable producing. But at that point in time, I was not. So having you show up and be good was very nice.
What prompted the idea? Now, I know you do have a background in writing. I just know that from, knowing your history and knowing you a little bit more. But what prompted that idea to have a personal narrative storytelling? Because this was the moth probably existed, but I didn't know about the moth. I didn't know about any of those things. And then how you told stories as well. What prompted that? Because I remember you didn't read. Like, I was reading my story, but you just went up and just told a story. And I think it was about a jazz club. But what prompted all that? The storytelling and doing a personal narrative storytelling show.
Yeah, so it was because that was what I was writing and that was what I was interested in doing myself. I didn't have the confidence to go and do stand-up, and an argument could be made that storytelling and stand-up could be the same thing. You just have to make them laugh just every couple of minutes, but it doesn't, like, a lot of my favorite stand-up specials, you're like, is this funny? Like, I don't know that it's funny.
When you watch it on TV, you'd be like, man, I'm not even laughing. I'm just listening to stories.
No, I'm just captivated, right? And it was what I was interested in doing. It's what I write. And I was really into listening to, like, This American Life was probably the gateway drug, that NPR show where people were just telling stories. And I was like, I want to be on that show. Like, that was a dream. So I thought I'd just start writing things that I think would get on there. And I never got on there, and that's fine. but it was something that helped me realize what I wanted to hear. And so I just made the show for around the thing that I like to do, which was tell true stories, like write down, call it memoir, call it essay, just experiences, and then share them in that way because I'm also a performer and I like that. And I started it because I wanted to tell my stories, and now it's been 15 years, like math, but now it's more just getting to hear other people's, because that's the cool thing. Like I've been doing it for 15 years, and every
Yeah.
show I'm like, what happened? Like every show I'm like, what now?
You still listen to the stories? You still hear?
Mhm, mhm.
Your ear still perks up when you hear some?
We had a guy come on just a couple months ago at Story Club Cleveland, and he walked in, and like sometimes you get people walking in, you're like, who are you? You just have a strange vibe. You have a cigarette dangling from your lips. There's no smoking in here. It's not lit, but it could be. Like, what are you doing? And he just had this real, like, sort of punk rock kind of like,
Fonzie was in.
who are you kind of a thing. And then he walked up with this really raspy voice, and he told this amazing story about when he was in high school, just getting really, really high and breaking into the high school swimming pool. And like during a dance and getting trapped in the elevator. The police had to come out and get him. And it was just like, I did not expect that story from
Yeah,
you. I didn't. It was delightful.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
so funny.
I know even at like Story Club, right? And you make jokes, and I like that. I like people who rag on people, talk a little shit. That's I feel more comfortable if you talk a little shit to me. Tell me I stink, or tell
Mhm.
me, uh I'm goofy, or say something bad, then we can go back and forth, and I feel like I'm at home. But so you like ragging on the people at the show a little bit, but
Mhm.
I know it's all in love. It's like our Midwest, our Cleveland, Chicago, Detroit kind of
Mhm.
attitude with it, But because I remember even at your show in Chicago, you used to rag on people at the show. It was a guy who had
Mhm.
I think I got a good memory on stuff. It was a guy who would come in
Mm.
with grape jogging pants or so.
That, with no underwear on underneath, Shannon, and he swayed while he
You would
talked.
come in with the gray jogging pants, and you would be like, "Okay, gray jogging pants guy." I
Oh
remember
my
that.
God. Okay. And he would sit there with a paper. He would read the paper when it wasn't his time to perform. He would perform, and as soon as he was done, he would walk out. And he's one of the reasons I changed the format, because he was always doing fiction, and I was like, "You're done. I'm
Yeah,
not offering you a platform anymore, sir." Yeah, I think it's nice to just, because my default personality is a little. I like to be playful. You could call it mean, but like that's like kind of what I am when I'm with my friends, when I'm with my family. That's how I show love. Is there's a lot of teasing that
yeah,
goes
yeah,
on.
yeah,
Even my kids do it now because they've been watching all these years. And so, but that's, I've noticed that the audience likes it more the more yourself you are, even if you're taking the piss out of them
hmm
or yelling back at them. Like I used to let the audience pick what the theme would be for the next month's show, and they would say the most jackass shit. I would just yell at them. Like, what should the theme be for next month? And they'd be like, your mom. And I'm like, guess what? It is now. So there.
Now it's gonna be about my mom. Yeah, yeah,
That's a rich vein. People have a lot to say.
yep, 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 yep. But you were
Yeah.
you did it was a I think it becomes bigger than the person in some ways because it was a community. But when you think about storytelling shows and creating shows, like
Mhm.
how do you build
Sorry, we
that
have a
community?
visitor.
Ah, look at that!
We have a
Hey,
visitor. There
how
we
many
go.
you have? How many kids? You got three, and what's the ages?
I got three. I got three. Um, she is 5. I have a 10-year-old, and then my 16-year-old niece is also ours. So
16-year
she's with
old
us.
and a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old. That's
Oh
you going
yeah,
across the board right there. Yeah,
it's
everybody's the
busy.
older one to the other one.
Uh huh.
Yeah,
Can't do
yeah.
anything without at least one of them being real mad.
That's all right. That's all right. Oh, I love it. I love it. But
It's
but you
because
were
of the
able to
age spread,
like
yeah.
it was a community at Story Club. Even when the
Mhm.
first room to the next room. Tell me a little bit
Mm.
about that, like the community of the show and how it kind of evolved over time going to different because I remember
Yeah.
Uncommon Ground and then you went to some other spaces as well.
Mhm. Yeah, it started at Uncommon Ground in Chicago, and then Uncommon Ground really it wanted to be a music venue where people make RSVPs and buy $40 dinners. And I
Yeah.
was like, we are poor. And my friends are not we're not $40 dinner folks. So it just like and plus the room was limited. You can only get like 30 people in there.
Hmm.
So after a bit of time, I found the Holiday Club, which was sort of like more an uptown area, and they just had this back room, and it was kind of grimy,
That was
but
a
you could
great
get tater
room. Yeah.
tots. It was a good room, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so we had it going there for a while, and we also then had Story Club Southside that was at this like gallery space down in Bridgeport as well. And I mean, the show's been at breweries in Cleveland. We're now the current location of Story Club Cleveland is a Victorian office building from the 1880s.
That sounds
Okay, it's been
beautiful. Just in my
abandoned.
mind,
It's
I can see.
gorgeous. Oh, it's
Yeah.
gorgeous. It's called the Brown Hoist, like it has a name, the building. And the guy that bought it is like turning it into like an art space, trying to revitalize it. And they have a huge ballroom on the second floor. And so we hold Story Club there in
That's
this
awesome.
giant ballroom and the windows you can look out, you can see the skyline of Cleveland. Okay, you got to go find Dad, okay?
No, that's wonderful.
Woo! It's always happening. Um, and so it's a nice space in that it's just all you need is a room, right? A room that's quiet, and that's what it is. And everything else is extra. And
Yeah.
so producing it for all these years, I've gotten better at figuring out like what's a good space and a space that like if only 20 people come, they feel comfortable. But like if more people come, they can all sit and see. And we were at a winery for a while in Cleveland. We've been a
That
bunch of
sounds nice.
different places. The
Yeah.
winery was really nice.
Yeah.
It
Now I
was. It was a
came I
little
came
small.
down I came down to the brewery, I believe. I
Mhm.
came like
Mhm.
went
You
to one
did.
of the earlier shows and I came to the to
You came to the first one, Shannon.
was
That
that
was
the
the
first
first
one?
Story Club Cleveland. That was the very first one,
That
inaugural
mean a
show.
lot. Yeah.
Well,
That
you
mean
drove down from Detroit.
yeah, that mean a lot then. I'm glad I was there. Yeah, I didn't know that
You
was the
were.
first. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is it a decent community of storytelling? And excuse me, my radiator.
Mhm.
You know how it is in
Oh, you're fine.
Chicago.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, Chicago apartments, but it's just whistling
Mhm.
over there. So that's not anybody
Oh,
whistling.
sure.
That's my that's my radiator. But what's the community like in Cleveland? Because the the storytelling scene in Chicago during the time, like when you started, and then say those
Mhm.
3 years after to 5 years out, it kind of exploded in
Mhm.
some ways in my
It
mind
did.
because I was in it,
No.
but it seemed like it were like shows and shows and shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Talk a little bit about that time, and then
Yeah.
also like what's the scene like in Cleveland?
Yeah. There were dozens and dozens of shows, and it was something that, like, in retrospect, was super amazing that you could any night of the week go to a storytelling show and it would be dedicated just to storytelling.
Yeah,
And we tried to market it as live lit for a while because we thought storytelling sounds like a library time for kids. Like we're not a storytelling, it's live lit. But there were so many shows. There was Right Club and there was SA Fiesta and there was Here Chicago. There were just so many shows, Guts and Glory. They were everywhere. And we were all in community and it was really cool because the stakes were so low that we were all friendly about it. Like if your show did great, then people would want to go to another show because your show is only once a month, right? So
yeah.
it was like the water rose and all the boats went up. So we were very friendly and it was really nice that way. And people had different shows with different flavors and different areas, with different styles, or like there was one, you remember I Shit You Not, the one that was just about stories about people shitting their pants.
That was Monty's show.
It was
Oh
exclusively
shit.
about shitting your pants.
Stories to shit your pants. It was it was comedian storytelling shows with drinking show, Blackout, I think Blackout Diaries.
Yes.
All these shows.
Yeah, and like the Moth came to town that time, and that blew up because everyone. It had the podcast and it had NPR, and then that was a gateway for other people if they liked the Moth. And I remember going to Moth shows and just handing out Story Club cards, just like no shame. Just like, if you like this, you'll love Story Club.
Why not? I would agree. I would do the same.
People just like, you are hustling, and I was like, I am. It's because I feel like it's really important to try, like, you have to be very convincing as a producer to get people to come spend an evening with you, especially when they have kids or other things at home. If you're asking them for like their most precious thing, which is time, to come spend some with you, and you're like, I'm going to take care of you, it's going to be a good time. Because I've been to a lot of bad shows. We all have.
Yeah.
And you don't want it to be a waste of their time. And I think that, so the community tends to form, you have to make the thing and then people come to it. So I made Story Club, and via that, almost every great thing in my life has happened from that. Like, I met you, I met other amazing creatives I wouldn't have met otherwise, and people who inspired me to improve my storytelling and to get better at it. And then here in Cleveland, it's a little bit different because, Chicago is such a dense, there's a lot of people there, and there's a lot of different artists there. And Cleveland, there are fewer people, and there are artistic communities. There's a huge slam poetry scene in Cleveland. There's a comedy scene.
Yeah,
for sure. And so part of it is trying to find a way to say to like those communities and those art forms, like, this is also available to you, like you could also do this. So there hasn't been a huge amount of storytelling shows that like are rocking all over Cleveland, but there are some. And I became friendly with a bunch of those producers, and there's one called Mental Illness and Friends, where you just talk about your mental illness and then they interview you afterwards.
Wow.
It's great.
see, the honesty in storytelling is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about our mental illness.
Oh yeah, like it's run by a woman who's her name is Dina Nair-Menlowitz, and she's just like, I am not okay. So what's wrong with you? Let's talk about it.
That's a good name for a show right there. I am not okay.
Look at that. It is a good name for a show. Yeah, and so there's a huge improv community that sort of is also like crossing over into storytelling, and I know a lot of those folks. But it's like you make the show, people come to the show, you meet them, and it sort of grows from there. So the community is different in that a lot of the people coming out are people who are just like, what is this storytelling? Or is this like the Moth? I actually had a woman be like, is this like the Moth? At the last show, I was like, kind of, sure, yeah. A little like that,
Yeah, it's always a good thing to kind of have something to refer to. You get what I'm saying? To refer things to, but at the same time, Story Club is what I knew first. So that was something else as well. That was something. And what you brought up one key point in what you were saying as well on building community. You cared, like you really cared. You wanted your show was one of the most consistent shows I've been to. And it was because you care. If a person is going to spend those 2 hours just hanging out at this bar or winery or back room of a coffee shop, you care about it. So that and that comes through when people care. Yeah.
And I appreciate, and I have like a background in theater, like I did college theater, and really that I really use a lot because it taught me to like respect the audience, and if they don't like it, like it's your fault. And to really, it drives me crazy if someone's performing and it's not going well and they turn on the audience and they blame them, like, oh, it's a bad crowd, or like, oh, they don't get it. It's like, no, it's your job to meet them more than halfway. Like, it's your job. They paid money. They would like to be having a good time. That is their preference.
If you bomb, Just accept your bomb. Just
accept it.
look,
It's
because
okay.
it's
Sometimes
so
you
much
have
power in a
to.
bomb. You know what I'm saying? You like,
Oh yeah,
you know
you
what?
learn a
I
lot.
survived. I survived. Life
Mhm.
goes on.
Oh yeah,
I don't have to
I would
explain
tell
it
a
to
story.
anybody. I can just make my way slowly out of the door to go get some go, to go get some whiskey at another bar. Yeah.
I teach storytelling classes, and that's what I'll tell students. Like, I make them do a show at the end of the class. Like, they have to do a show. Like, that's part of it. And they're always like the class before, like, I don't think I can do this show. And I'm like, oh, you're doing it because you paid your money. So come do the show. Because I say, if you are amazing and the best thing that's ever been, afterwards you're going to go home and sit on your couch. And if you suck and everyone hates you, afterwards you'll go home and sit on your couch. So, like, the stakes are low.
Yeah.
We're
And
just
once
here
you
to, like,
experience
do the
that,
work.
you can kind of deal. It kind of puts things in perspective in a lot of ways, you know, because that's a big fear for a lot of people is telling a story. How do you encourage like new storytellers, or you say you teach
Mm.
classes as well? How do you encourage new storytellers to get on stage maybe for the first time, or
I mean, I talk a lot about, well, first off, there's making sure that the material is there, that you've worked on the material, and I tell them it's not a matter of whether it's good or bad, it's a matter of whether it says what you came to say. Like, whether they like it or not, it's not your business. Do they understand what you want them to know? And that's the main thing. And of course, you want them to like it and love you and be obsessed with you and follow you on Instagram, but you don't control that. You can control whether they understand it. And I always also push them to be more vulnerable and to be more
Mhm.
authentic and to sort of like say the thing you're not saying, like say it, because it's going to pay off. Like just say it. Just say it. Just say, like, my mom never liked me. Just say it. Like, it feels wrong and weird, but like they love it. The audience is like, yes.
that is real?
It
Nah,
is. It's like just
that's
say
real.
it. Like, and sometimes it's like be more honest with a room full of strangers than you would be necessarily like with your husband or with your friend. Like really push yourself to say the thing because we're trying to reveal truths here. That's why people come to these shows.
Yeah, yeah.
And new storytellers, they tend to want to be funny because the audience will laugh if they're funny and then they know they're doing good. But then I'm always like, the next level is to not be funny. The next level is to just stand there kind of in your truth and say the thing that's real for you. And if you're being honest and you're explaining it and they understand it, the audience will be right there with you, even if
Yeah.
they have never experienced the same thing because emotion is universal.
No,
So if you can,
it's real what you're saying because even in stories that I tell, I want to feel challenged a little bit. You know, it makes it fun,
Mhm.
makes it more exciting for me. But I want to challenge, and I like how you said my mom never liked me. Who hasn't felt that? You get what I'm saying? I feel
Honestly,
like my mom loved me with all her heart, but I'm just saying like who
oh yeah,
hasn't felt like real stuff like that? You know, like real.
yeah. My mom would die for me. Does
My
she like
dad
me all the
probably don't
time?
like.
No.
My dad probably had moments, you know what I'm saying? But my mom, I could do no wrong with her.
Yeah. No, and it's like when you get on the stage and you feel nervous, it's like that's natural. Don't fight it.
Yeah,
Like nerves and excitement are the same thing. Energy is energy. Like use it.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
if you don't feel nervous, it means you don't care. So that's
yeah.
another thing is to just try to like Jedi mind trick the stage fright to be like, this is actually useful. It's not a hindrance. It's
Have you ever
actually
been
something pretty cool.
have you ever been like wild, like really just I'm sure you have many times, but like just
Hmm.
on stage and you just by your own story or maybe you some story you saw and you just like at one of your own shows, just like
Yeah,
that was amazing. That was an amazing night or
absolutely.
event. Yeah, yeah. Any
Yeah,
any
yeah,
any memorable
yeah.
ones?
No, yeah, for sure. There was a woman who she wasn't planning on telling a story that night, but we didn't have enough open micers, and I usually try to like bully the audience into coming up as the show goes on. If not enough people sign up ahead of time, I'll just sort of yeah, bully them until someone volunteers to make it stop. And so she did, and she came up, and she was like a new mom, and she had this like little like I don't know 2 3 month old baby with her who was sleeping And she told her story just off the top of her head, holding the sleeping baby, talking about how she had really been fighting eating disorder for a lot of her adult life, and how scared she was about, like, how is she going to make sure this baby doesn't go through the same thing. And I never got her name, Shannon. And then she disappeared into the night.
That's something else.
Like, come back, let me book you.
Yeah, no, it's like that sometimes. The moment happens, and it's just like that moment was meant to be, and everybody is left wild, and to talk to so many different people in the audience. Yeah.
No, it was so gorgeous and so real and so raw, because she didn't have the answer. And those are some of my favorite stories. I've come to like stories where they're like, and then it all worked out, or and then I learned this. I'm like, okay. I like it more when people are like really wrestling with some like core truths of like being a person. Like, I don't know.
Like, no, that's the truth. That's the real though. Yes. What do you know? You know what I'm saying? You look at these kids sometimes. You look at just 16 and 10 and 5, and you're just like, I hope I do it.
You're just like, why do they trust me? They really trust me, and I don't know what I'm doing.
I know, look at their mind. I think I'd be like, I don't know. I hope this works out the right way. What advice would you give for a person, say they interested in starting a show, a storytelling show? What advice would you give a person like who's considering starting a show? Are there lessons that you learned that you wish you would have known when you first started Story Club, or as Story Club evolved?
It was when Story Club first started, there weren't very many people coming. You remember, it wasn't a huge crowd. And which was good, because I got to sort of fail in front of, like, I got to every show, I try to figure out what could I do better? Like, what did I miss? What could I do better? And it's a slow process. But eventually, the answer really was to be more authentically myself and to make the show that I wanted to make. And if people like it, they like it. And if they don't, great. You don't have to come anymore. You can leave. I was trying to be everything to everyone at first. Trying to make everyone happy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, people would be up there for 18 minutes, and I'd be like,
I do remember that.
For 8. And I'd just be like, oh, how do I do?
Yeah, you'd be like,
they're just reading. They don't give a shit. So that's when I had to, like, here's the timer. It's on stage with you. I will interrupt you. Like, love of God. And to just be more forceful, and to say, you can't do anything without making someone mad. And that's okay. As long as you're doing the thing that you know, I'm not being mean. I'm not, I'm trying to be ethical. But if you don't like the show that I have, amazing, go start your own. But you don't want to do that because it's hard. You'd rather come to someone else's. And
it's not easy. Yeah, I know
it's not.
Yeah.
So the main thing is, like, well, first off, if you want to start a story club, I'm always franchising. So you can reach out to me, Dana at storyclubcleveland.com.
That's awesome.
And there's one in Southwest Michigan right now. I'm talking to a lady in North Carolina. There's one going in Pittsburgh. A lot of the story clubs in COVID, of course, shut down. And the people that were producing and hosting the shows moved on to different phases of life. So, yeah. If anyone wants to bring back Story Club Chicago, let me know.
I remember you had multiple shows in different cities. I think it was one in Boston at the time, and then it was
there was in Boston, there was Minneapolis, there was Columbus. Yeah.
So it's still going in that way. That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I'm still interested in doing it because I have a template, I have a formula. I'm not precious about it. I will share it. It's like, it's very kind of paint by numbers, XYZ. The only thing is you have to do it every month. And as soon as you have a great show, you got to do it again. And then you got to do it again. And I've learned a lot recently about, frankly, monetization and ways to actually make money doing it, which took me a long time to get there. One of them is to actually charge people to come in. I didn't want to do that for a very long time. But I've since kind of realized that people value things they pay for.
Yep, that's true.
It's just the way of it. And if they buy a ticket, they'll actually show up. Versus if they say, oh, I'm going to go to that, they maybe won't actually show up. So if you make them buy a ticket ahead of time, more people come. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
That little shift, and it's not, yeah.
Because I thought, I was like, well, I don't ever want money to be a barrier.
Yeah.
Because you remember what it was like living in a city, just being like, I don't have a lot. So, but yeah, and it's still sliding. Like if people are like, I want to come, I don't have it. I'm like, yeah, come on in.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. But actually having ticket sales is something that has
It
really
helps
helped
instead of hurts. Yeah.
grow the show. It
Mhm.
helps it.
Yeah.
It really does.
No, that's a big
And
thing
then
for them to
also,
be said
yeah,
and heard. You get what I'm saying? Because a lot of times
mhm,
people are like, oh, I just want to do this because of the community. But if you do
sure.
charge, the value thing happens. Yeah.
The value is real. If you make people pay money to come in, and then we're very transparent about saying where the money goes. We pay our featured performers. We always have. But we pay them, and we also pay our venue, which is an arts collective, and we pay. We have a featured charity for every show that we also pay part of the money to them. So, and we've nested under an existing nonprofit.
That's
So this
good.
is
That's
something that
good.
blew my mind. Fiscal sponsorship. You don't have to make a nonprofit. You can just find a nonprofit. Let them carry your money for you. They take 10% off the top, but then you don't have to pay taxes. It's great. Highly
No,
recommend.
and you can receive donations. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm,
And you can receive
mhm,
like larger donations of people who really want to benefit, and organizations that
for
really
sure.
want to benefit storytelling.
Yeah,
Like me learning
yeah.
that over time, even when I was in Chicago, came back to Detroit, I met with a guy and he had said he had did these little pieces, these little storytelling pieces, and got a large amount from a foundation. And I was like, really? And immediately I started learning how to do
Mhm,
foundation things and all that kind of stuff. But
mhm.
you learn it as you go. But it's nothing wrong with shows and storytelling events making money and monetizing themselves. And
No.
I know you have done some corporate work as well. And thank you for bringing me in on a
Oh
few of them.
yeah.
Yeah, doing the different corporate
Those are
jobs.
always weird, man. You show up and you're like, I don't know that this is what you wanted, but this is what's happening.
Yep, yep.
Like when you booked us, what did you think? And just a room full of people staring.
No- but I'm sure you've
They
done
pay
other.
well though.
Yeah. No, but that's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
and I just think it's like, and whatever we're YouTube live, just like I always was like always astounded at how much the Moth would bring in terms of ticket sales and people in there and everything,
I'd be
and how
wild.
their overhead was like they didn't pay a single storyteller. No one making the content got any money. And I was like, that is okay. Like I know you're a nonprofit, but like all the money's going back into you to the beast that makes it. So I just feel very strongly about these things that
Yeah.
paying people for doing the thing is important.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I agree with you. And you um amazing storyteller, amazing
Mm.
host. And that's not me just saying it. Like your hosting is a thing within itself. It's different from telling the story. Hosting is its own thing. I'm a
Mm.
decent host. When I host, I have to work. When I just have to tell a story,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like, this is simple.
that's
I
how I
just share
feel.
my
Every
life,
time I'm booked at a show, I walk in there just like so relaxed, just like all I have to do is sit
Hosting is
here.
a whole nother because I have to DJ the room almost, in a sense. I have
You
to,
do.
yeah.
You have to
What
set
is
the
some of
levels. You got to get them hyped.
your hosting philosophies or hosting like what things stick to you with hosting? Like what do
Yeah.
you stand on?
Um, Anytime I start the show, I always try to go for a laugh first, just to break the tension. And I just start off just kind of just like I'm trying to scare a bear. I'm just like real big. I'm just real big to just be like, it's happening. Look at me. Everyone be quiet. You shut up. Get over here. And just grab them by the throat and just the show is happening now. Like, and it's sort of a show of dominance. Like we're listening to me now. Because I think that makes people feel more comfortable. And also, you'll be surprised by how many people will just keep talking. They'll just keep talking until you're like, no, you are not allowed to talk anymore.
No.
And it's a matter of like I boss them around. I tell them what to do. I'm like, clap. You're not clapping loud enough. Clap louder. And
People love that. People want that.
they love it. It's
That's
a
what
part
they
of my
want. Yeah.
It's
Tell
and
me
it
what to
also helps
do.
that it's like it's part of my authentic personality. That's like, you know, my kindergarten report card was like, she does not stop talking. Like she is very bossy. And so it's like taking those parts of myself and turning them up for that. And it's also making sure the room's going well. And if someone is being loud in the corner during a story, being like, you need to stop. And if if the light goes off or something's weird, to call it out immediately, to be like, hey guys, I think the room's on fire. Maybe we should leave, which did happen once. Um, and to just take care of them. And it's like you're the conductor, like you're like driving the bus, and they just want to make sure that like you got it, you're fine. And I also try to make moments of connection in between each story, which I remember I learned that from actually The Moth, all the shit I talk. But when Brian Babylon was hosting The Moth, he would do little riffs in between every story. And I was like, oh shit, that's so good. Like that was so good. So that's where I got that from. I was like, okay, I can do that. So every time someone's telling a story, I'm just like in my head, like, okay, I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And then I know, and it doesn't have to be anything of substance. It's
Yeah.
just like a
Yeah.
little palate cleanser to like smooth the energy back down so the next person comes on. Because you don't want to be like, that was a great story, and then the next one sucks, and you're like, you don't say that was a great story because it sucked.
That's
What can I
the
do
key
that's
point.
neutral?
Almost stay neutral in a sense, because the thing is, you
Mhm.
start going off, and then it makes it uncomfortable too for the next person that's coming
Mhm.
up, because you got to
Mhm.
shift the energy and all that kind of stuff. But those are excellent points. Then you no, your shows and your hosting top notch. I've never
Oh,
really had a bad experience. That's I can't even remember at Story Club. Everything. Every time I went to Story Club, great stories. Of course, I was a part of a lot of them, and
of course.
then just always a fun time. So, but then you wrote books as well. So the
Mhm.
storytelling code. How did that come about? I got it right over here too. I meant to
Yeah, no, it was that is a wild thing because like I said, every good thing, a lot of good things in my life, there it is,
I got to get mine
came
signed at some point. Yeah.
I'll find it for you. No, it's crazy. It's a publishing company. So there are these publishing companies that basically exist out in the world, and this one is very like sort of based on algorithms, and they're just like, what books do people wish they had read? And they like scan Amazon and Goodreads reviews to find the book that people are disappointed that they didn't get, and then they make it. So they knew that a basic intro book about storytelling, there was a market for it, and they wanted to find someone to write it. And so because I got that SEO, they reached out to me because they're like, on my LinkedIn or whatever, they're like, oh, you seem to know about this. And I did. And they had a whole like this, they're like, this is the book we want. And we had some back and forth where I'd be like, no, I don't like that. Like I want to put this in here and put my own spin on it. But yeah, they approached me, which is the wildest. I was like,
No,
is
but
this
that
a
makes
scam?
sense. I mean, you are like I learned storytelling through you. So you are, you the storyteller. You my story mama. I call you story mama. You know that. Story mama. And now you got three. Now you actually got some
I'm
kids.
gonna. I know. I'm
See,
actually right now.
I was calling it into existence. You see
You
that?
were. I
I'd be
can't
like,
tell
that's
you
story
how.
mama. Story mama.
Hold on one second.
No, do
Speaking
your
of
thing.
what? Okay, why are you making coffee? Oh, okay, that's fine. All right.
No, that's
Speaking of, it was one of them. Like, I'm making coffee. I'm like, okay.
at 8 o'clock at night. That's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, pretty much. Like what? No, it's like I really do need to update my Instagram handle to Story Mama. I'm sure it's already gone.
Well, okay, you talk about Instagram. I see you killing it on TikTok, and I love what you do on TikTok. It's true authenticity. It's just you. I'm like listening to. It's like me being with you all the time. Now, tell me about that. How did that kind of? Because I'm taking it to kids somewhat because I didn't know about TikTok until my daughter started showing me it. But talk to me about your TikTok and her storytelling on TikTok. Follow her on TikTok. Tell us your handle and follow her on TikTok because it's amazing stories. I can't hear you. Something happened.
At Dana Story Club on TikTok. That is it. I hit my mute button. Yeah. So no, TikTok is great because it's really good for people like you and me who just sort of exist in that, like, it's a very performance-based social media as opposed to like Instagram, which is all like the pictures and the images and I loved it when I first got on TikTok and started looking at it. I was like, oh my God, no one's wearing makeup. This is so cool. I'm sure there's a side of TikTok where they are wearing makeup, but the side I'm on, the hair is, and like they're just like, okay, look. And like everyone's just being like, they're just in their car, like just speaking honestly about things. So I was like, well, shit, I can do that. And so I did that. And the thing that really caught on, I made, my 16-year-old is my niece who came to live with us. And so I was talking about that. And that was something that was captivating to a lot of people. That's like, oh my gosh, I suddenly have a teenager. And it's interesting though, because it's different than storytelling, because in a show live in front of people, I will say all the things. But TikTok, I'm like, I sort of like, as I was going, started to talk about my kids less just because I was like, oh, this is so public. And the comments, which are fine, but people have opinions and they say things.
And
they
you like my kids. You got opinions on my
it sounds
kids.
to me like, I'm like, who the fuck asked you, user 28941? Like, who? But I mean, you're putting it out there, so you're creating a dialogue. And my thing is, if you show up, and I don't know how you deal with like negative comments. I'm like, if you leave a mean comment, I go to your page, and if you have at least one public video posted, I leave it there, and if you don't, then block.
Yeah, they just troll. That's the meaning of troll. They just got a page just to leave bad comments on people's page.
Well, per se, if it's a really bad comment, maybe I'll make the same comment on your video without context.
Yeah,
just word for word. That's fine.
But see, you real on your show. On TikTok. I love seeing your TikToks, and I saw one where you had went on a trip, and they had given you, like, they had said it was one thing, but then when you got to the Airbnb, it was a whole nother thing.
He has an Airbnb in Lincoln Square, and we are fighting.
The wrong person. As I was listening and knowing you, I was just like, nah, they got the wrong one on this one. She gonna take it to the. They might be sheltering your building after Data get through with it.
They have a whole, did you know that 311, they have a whole department for like fraudulent like Airbnb listings? I made a formal report. I'm going to update TikTok with the results when they come in.
That's
I did make
funny.
a report.
That's funny. No, it's so funny and real that it just has me cracking up because it's just real. So definitely follow her TikTok. But I love that. I love that you were open enough to take storytelling to other mediums, because a lot of times I do see some of the storytellers who was in it from 15 years back may not sometimes look at these new avenues, and I always look at them and say, that's where things are going, and because why not just tell stories there as well,
Because it's like, I feel like we're the same in that I'm going to be doing this in the nursing home. Like, I'm going to be doing this wherever I am.
Yeah.
Like, it's so fundamental to who I am. So if there's a new venue, if there's a new social media that allows you to do it, do it.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead. Like,
have fun
absolutely.
With it. Yeah.
Don't go for it. Have fun with it. Try it out.
Yeah. Just play around. Play around. That's my thing. I play around with it,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And just consistently doing it, like being consistent and being like, okay, I'm going to try it this way, or I'll try it this way. I'll try a story club at this venue. It doesn't work out. I had a really clarifying moment really early in Story Club where Uncommon Ground sent me an email to say, you aren't bringing in enough people. We're going to cancel the show. Like, your last show was last month. You're not going to have a show again. And I was like crying hysterically. And then I had a moment of insight where I was like, oh, you can't cancel my show though, because I can do it in my living room. So my show's not canceled. You're just telling me I can't do it at your venue. But what if you let me do it at your venue anyway? I don't know. I just did a counter offer, which was like, what if it's not canceled and you give me time to try to grow the audience? And they were like, okay, fine.
No, I like your can-do attitude, you know. Yeah, you're not, you know, go beyond the no. You're a great salesperson.
Come on.
You know that, right?
Yes, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Like, let me tell you, like that's a soft no. Like you thought it was a hard no. That's a soft
That's
no.
a soft no. Yeah.
I can get around that. We can work it out. We can argue. It's fine. We can talk.
I love it. Now I do this one section of the show, and it's a story, and I know I'm not on you. I know it, but it's nothing where you had to come up with a story or anything like that. I call it Be Brutally Honest. I'm going to give you some categories, and you go choose the category, and then I'm going to throw some prompts out. And if a prompt brings a story to mind, it could be about the prompt or just if it brings something to mind. But we could just talk it out. You know, it's not like you got to tell, you know, regular story. But okay, so the prompts are, or the categories are, what I got here: reset, because it's the beginning of the year, still January. Party time, because it was the beginning of the year, like parties was happening, and it's so cold in the D, because Detroit is cold right now. So which category?
Let's go party time.
Party time. Okay, a story where you formed a significant connection or relationship at an event or party. You made a relationship or connection at an event or party. Or you can say pass, I go to the next
one. No, I got it. So this was in college, and I was throwing a New Year's Eve party at the place I was staying, which was this, I don't know why they let college students in this beautiful Victorian house, but they did, and we just destroyed it. So we're having a party, and I'm running around in this like really weird like gold sequin dress that I'm in my own house, Shannon. Like I'm barefoot, I'm drunk.
I see you in gold sequins. That's you. Yeah, that's you.
Martha, you know, like yeah. I like an outfit. And I'm out in the middle of the party. My one housemate comes up to me and she's like, Dana, there are these guys here and no one knows who they are. And I was like, okay, like tell them to leave. And she's like, I did. And they said that they're not leaving. And I don't, and she's like, you know, we're very yin and yang, Lori and I, like I'm very brash. She's very, you know, sensitive. And so I was like, well, okay. And I'm like full of like drunk confidence. And I'm like, I got this. There were several people there that could have handled it. I could have asked someone else, whatever. So I find the guys immediately. I'm like, I don't know who these men are. And I'm like, why are you at this party? And they're like, well, we're here to see Sarah. We know Sarah. And I was like, Sarah who? And then they dropped the last name of my friend from high school who was happened to be visiting that day and was staying with me. And I was like, oh.
Okay, I thought they were throwing out a random Sarah. You know,
no,
Sarah,
right, me too. That's why I was like,
name, you know, we're
Sarah who? Who the hell, Sarah? I don't know, it's Sarah. And then they said the name, and I was like, oh shit, she's right over there. I'm so sorry. Like I was like, I will stand down. You apparently know my friend. And that was a guy that she was sort of casually dating, who was in Chicago, and I was at school in Ohio, who basically was like, his friends had hyped him up, and she had invited him to the party, feeling like he's not actually going to come. He's in Chicago. It's stupid. And his friends were like, you have to go. If you love her, man, you got to go. So they all got in a car and drove like 6 hours through the night to this party to get screamed at by me. And like that sealed the deal, and they got married. And that Airbnb I was screaming about on TikTok, I stayed in it with her and her husband, who I met that night at that party. And it's now like 25 years later, and we're all hanging out. But yeah, I tried to throw him out of the party the first night I met him.
That's all right. That's all right. Nah, see, that toughness. I hear that toughness in it, in that story at the same time. That love too. Because that's awesome that y'all stayed cool that long as
Oh
well.
yeah,
And he made a strong.
absolutely.
He made a bold move that could have went a lot of different ways. You know what I'm
Let me
saying?
tell you,
Because you show up
he
at the
got his
party,
wife that
and if
night.
she didn't like him that much, she would have looked at him like, "Why are you here?"
No, it did great. It worked great.
It worked
That man
out
went on
great.
an
It worked
odyssey.
out
He
great.
drove. He got screamed at by a random lady, and he got his girl.
He got his girl. I like that. I love that. I love that. How Ian doing? He good?
He's good.
Good.
He's
That's good.
good.
That's
Yeah,
good.
he has a bunch of. I have a bunch of synthesizers in my basement now. He's doing dad stuff. He's in
That's
the
all right.
basement,
Yeah.
like raising
Synthesizer.
kids and then like dropping beats.
I like that. I like that. I love it.
Hmm.
I love it. I love it. Who are
Yeah,
your
how is your family doing?
Oh, everybody's good. Everybody's good. My
Yeah.
daughters are doing. They're like off the chart geniuses.
Oh, of
And
course
so
they are.
they're like big brainiac heads doing
Hmm.
doing amazing things. And Cindy is doing wonderful. She's doing big things in nonprofit world
Hmm.
and all the kind of she's in the political scene. She likes all that kind of
Changing
stuff.
the
So she
world.
she yeah, to
Yeah.
change the world type of stuff. Yep, yep,
Hmm.
yep. And I'm
Hmm.
still
Yeah.
slinging these stories, still
I love
slinging
it.
these stories around. So
Throw them
everything's
around.
going well. Yeah. Who are your influences? If you was to think of your inspirations and influences, it'd be early on or
Mm.
recently. I don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah. No, I feel like my mom's family, they would get together around the holidays, and after the meal was over, everyone would just stay around the table and tell stories. They would just stay there and just swap stories for, I don't know, it felt like hours. And like I would listen and just be like, God, I wish I had a story to share. But I'm like 10, you know? Like I don't like what do I have to say? I would just sit there and listen and be like, it's so funny. I wish I could be that funny one day.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have someone at my door. Yes, hello? Okay, I'll be done in just a little bit. Okay, you get ready for bed, buddy.
I love it. I love it.
That's my 10-year-old. They've all come in, Shannon. Every
You
single one
mama.
has
You
visited.
story mama and you real mama. You know what I'm saying?
Real.
Mama all around. Mama all
Yeah, he's like,
around.
when are you gonna be done? I'm like, we're wrapping up. We'll be fine. We're fine.
No doubt, no
Um,
doubt.
yeah. What was I saying?
No, you just talking about real family. Like your inspiration was
Oh
like your
yeah.
real family, real
Yeah.
around the table people. Yeah.
Honestly, just
Real
sitting
people.
around and being able to like off the top of the head tell a story that had the whole table cracking up. And I was like, I want to do that. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize that like it was like, my legacy, and also you have to like live things for a while before you can have stories to tell. And the older we get, the more I have.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just keep
So much.
happening, right?
Yeah. Things keep happening. That's good.
They
Yep.
do.
Yep. Yep. No doubt. How anything going on right now? Tell us how to get to Story Club, and then tell us
Mm,
anything else that's happening right now
hmm.
as well, and how people can keep in touch.
Totally. StoryClubCleveland.com is the website. You can go there and see about our upcoming shows. The next one is this Friday. So if you're in the Cleveland area, get a ticket, come on by. You can see it. The theme is Lover. So, I'm going to have Tootsie Pops for everyone. I bought a case of them
So you
because
you
I'm
gotta give
silly
them
because we
away.
have money. Shannon, we have money now, so every show I buy something stupid to like give out just because it's fun. And at Dana Story Club on TikTok, at Dana Norris Stories on Instagram. I should get those aligned, but they're not. And yeah, I just come to a Story Club show. There's Story Club PGH is the Pittsburgh website.
Oh wow,
There's
okay.
Story Club Southwest Michigan. They have a website. They're starting it. And if you're interested in this, you want to talk to me more about it, reach out. Dana
Yeah.
at StoryClubCleveland.com, because this is my passion. And if I can just get a Story Club show going in every state, I would just be so happy. And the cost of admission is, my franchise fee is $1. Okay. So don't let money hold you back.
No, Dana, you have been a benefit in my life since knowing you. You've been something that's been a plus for me ever since I met you, and even now. And when I saw you on TikTok, I was just like, oh man, I get more Dana all the time.
Yes.
I was
Poor
like, I
Dana.
didn't even know. Like, it was my daughter's thing, and then I started seeing. I'm like,
Oh
I
yeah.
gotta learn a new app. Oh, I gotta
You
get on this
do.
thing
You
too.
do.
And then
But
when
the
I
thing
got
with
on there, I
Mike is,
saw you. I was like, okay, I'm in the right spot. I'm in the good
there you
place.
go. There's TikTok for us.
I'm gonna keep
There's
on doing it.
TikTok
So
for us
make sure you
older
go to her
folks
TikTok and
too.
Instagram. Yeah, yeah. Yep. Nah, I have fun with it. But I appreciate you, Dana. Stay on and we go talk a little bit more. But thank you so much. This is Storyteller, the Storyteller. If you like storytelling, you like people to go on stage telling stories, you like the Moth and Risk and Snap Judgment and Story Club and Homemade, make sure you like and subscribe. And I'm gonna be talking to storytellers all the time. So come back and be a part of this. Make sure you leave comments and all those things that you enjoy. But thank you so much for being a part of it. And hold on the line, Dana. I'll talk to you in 1 second.
All right, cool.
Bam.
Now that's homemade.